Welcome back to SharePoint Charts Complete Training. Today we're going to be looking at an advanced charting template that's closely related to stacked bar charts. The chart that we're doing today is the Marimekko chart. If this is something you haven't heard of before or you haven't done this, don't be surprised. This is pretty unique, but I think you'll find it's an interesting concept and something that will really benefit you, especially if you have data that lends itself to a stacked bar chart. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm back in my SharePoint Charts training site, and the data set that we're going to use is one that's already loaded from a previous training. This is the data set that was used for stacked bar charts. So you want to go to the Marimekko charts training section, and you see a preview that helps you understand what your end chart would look like. Also in here is some explanation about that chart. If you want to understand the purpose a little bit better before you begin, you can just click on the link provided and go from there. There is a link also to the workbook. But as I say, you should already have loaded this list from the previous training. If for some reason you have not done the grouped and stacked bar charts training, please be sure to complete that training before doing this training. All right, so if you click on the link, that will take you to the charting template that we're going to use, which is right here. So we've got that loaded and ready, but we have some work to do before we're going to be ready to apply that template. Let's go back to the training site, and I'm going to click on the grouped bars link to get me over to that particular list. And I want to go to the all items view, and this is the view where we're going to be doing some work to get started. So what we want to do is, first of all, we're going to need to add some columns. In fact, we're going to need to add 3 different columns to hold the data necessary for this special type of chart. The first thing we need is a calculated field which will total up the categories of sales. I have 5 categories of sales here, and I just want to add a calculated field which will total those up. So I should also mention there's a formula at the bottom of here that's going to help us. So I'm going to call this month total because we're going through calendar months, January, February, March, etc. So just making sure we're going to match up with what we're going to do. So I'm going to go to the list settings, and I'm going to go ahead and create a column called month total. And then this will be calculated, and I'm going to total up those 5 categories. So we've got electronics, furniture, hardware, services, and support. A very simple calculated field formula. Okay? We want that to return back a number, and I can just leave the default there for decimal places and let it add to default view. And we'll go back out and just make sure it does what we think it was going to do. So this is just totaling up these 5 categories. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Now, the next thing we need is a column that's going to hold the total of all of the months. So this is a little more tricky. Normally, you're going to want to do this through workflow. So earlier in the training, we did some work in Power Automate that showed us how to automatically total up information. And if you want to have a dynamic Marimekko chart where anytime this data gets updated, it will update that, you're going to need to do that through workflow. For our training, we're just going to do this manually. And if you have a static chart that you're doing, you could do this manually as well. I want to get this column of values, In order to do that, I want to get the quick property editing going again. So I'm going to go to the list settings, advanced settings, and I'm going to turn quick property editing back on, and I'm doing that so I can access the grid mode. All right, so there's the grid mode, and I want that because I need to total up these values. So I'm going to select all these cells, copy that, and I'm going to go to Excel just as a shortcut so I can get a total. So I'm going to click on the sum, and that tells me it is 38,260. Okay, get rid of that. I don't need it. And I will exit grid view. And I'm going to add a column called series total. So that's a number column. And then I'm going to do next. I'm doing this with no spaces. Series total, number field, decimal places, I'll let that be automatic. And then just hit save. Okay, it says it was created. Great. And it was 38,260. And I'm just going to repeat that value. That's the same value I need for all these. This is the grand total for all these columns. Again, I want to repeat, this is what you would want to be updated by a workflow. And if you're wondering how that might take place, just review back through the training in the previous session where we looked at how to get totals on your list data. Okay, so now we've got a series total, and I can get the grid view turned back off. And so I'll go to list settings. We need one more field, which is going to hold a percent. So let me go to advanced settings. I'm going to turn the quick property editing back off and hit OK. And we need a calculated field, which we're going to call percent. Calculated. And now we need that special formula that was over on the training content. You can just copy and paste that. Put that in here. So it just tells it to divide month total divided by series total, and then that times 100. We need that output to be a number, and we'll go ahead and say to 1 decimal place. And you're going to see what our output looks like shortly. Okay, so this is telling me that the January sales was 9.2% of the overall sales of all these records, and so on. So now we have all of our data, which is great. That's exactly what we're looking for. So what I want to do next is create a view for my Marimekko chart. So let's do save view as, and I'll call it Marimekko. And by the way, these are also referred to as Mekko charts by some people. So that's the same thing. It's just a different name. Let's get a link to this. I'm going to edit the current view and hit OK. And I'm going to grab this URL. And I always like to have tiles going to these. So I'm going to update this. And I'm going to add a link. Get rid of the ASPX. I don't want to see that. Just say Marimekko. And I'm going to pick an appropriate icon. I'll choose a charts related icon. Giving me one option. I was expecting more than that. Here, that's a good one. Okay. Click on my icon, and now I can drag it down to the end since it's my most recent one, and republish. Now I can just jump to my Marimekko view very quickly. Now we should be ready to apply a template. We've got everything that's needed. So let's switch over to SharePoint dashboards and look at what we have. Now, as with all the templates, I always recommend to browse through the themes just to see some of the possibilities before you do anything, because of course it can look quite different depending on what you set. Okay, so we're going to use theme 1, and then I need to put in my field names. So first we're going to put in the reference to the title field, and then come the number fields. Those are our categories. And so we have categories in here for services, then electronics, and then furniture, hardware, and support. And then it wants to know the name of the percent field, which is easy to remember because it's just called percent. All right. And I don't want it to be called my chart title. Let's just call it monthly sales. And now I'm ready to copy the template, then click OK, and then I can bounce back over to my view, and we should be able to go to the view selector, format current view, advanced mode, select all, and paste, then save. Boom, there is our Marimekko chart. Pretty cool. So this is demonstrating the concept of a stacked bar chart going in two directions, both vertical and horizontal. So we see the proportion of each of these categories, services, electronics, furniture, etc. We can see what was a little bit like support or which ones were bigger. Of course, you can see furniture is much bigger. So you have that concept going on, and then you have the comparison between months in this case. So what you'll notice is that for a month with a lower percentage, such as October, that column is narrower than ones that had an overall larger total, like March. So that's the concept that this is demonstrating. I can go ahead and make another adjustment. I've got some vertical space, so I may as well go ahead and increase that. I just go to the canvas height, switch that to 500, and then I can just reapply the template. There we go. And just to make the contrast a little bit better, I'm going to switch that dark blue to something lighter because that will improve the appearance. So you can adjust the bar colors. So I'm going to go from navy. Let's go to Alice blue for that one, just to lighten that up, and then just we'll copy and apply the template once again. There, now we have a sharper division of the borders. That is it. We have made a Marimekko chart, so you can impress your friends and tell them about this chart and show them something they probably haven't seen before, or certainly not in the context of data in your organization. This is an advanced chart. This is something that you may want to reach for in a case where you have data that lends itself to stacked bar charts. So if you're already doing that type of chart, you may want to remember that you probably can use that data to additionally show a chart view like this one, which has an additional concept. It's giving you a comparison in a month-to-month time frame. It doesn't have to be time-based. It could be different categories. There's lots of possibilities in terms of what you can do. So I hope you found that interesting, and I hope you've got a data set so that you can make your own Marimekko chart for your organization. Good luck!